Beyond the Gates, Wednesday, February 4th. Secrets erupt, loyalties shatter, and the gates are never the same again. Wednesday's episode of Beyond the Gates didn't just move the story forward, it cracked it wide open. What began as a day of uneasy silences and forced smiles ended with emotional bloodshed across Uptown, the Dupree estate, and the hospital wing that has quietly become the center of too many whispered conspiracies. This episode felt real, raw, and deeply human, grounding its explosive twists in choices that have been simmering for years. Every character walked into the day, believing they could still control the narrative. By sunset, the truth had other plans. The hour opens at the Dupree mansion, where the weight of unspoken history hangs heavier than the crystal chandelier above the dining table. Queen Dupree sits at the head, composed as ever, but her fingers tighten around her teacup just a little too long. Anastasia stands near the window, watching the gates outside as if they might open and swallow her whole. The silence between them is deafening, a silence that carries years of loyalty demanded and independence denied. Queen Dupree finally speaks, her voice calm but edged with warning, reminding Anastasia that family survives by unity, not rebellion. Anastasia turns slowly, her eyes burning with something far more dangerous than anger, clarity. She tells Queen Dupree that unity built on fear is not unity at all. It's control. And today, she's done playing her role. Across town, Danny wakes up alone, staring at Andre's empty side of the bed. The sheets are cold, but the ache in her chest is still fresh. She checks her phone, hoping, pathetically, for a message that won't come. When she finally drags herself into the shower, she doesn't cry. That scares her more than the tears ever did. Danny has reached that numb place where love turns into survival, and the audience can feel it. Later, as she steps into Uptown Cafe, she runs straight into Shanice, who immediately senses something is wrong. Danny tries to deflect with sarcasm, but Shanice doesn't let her. She tells Danny that Andre didn't just leave, he ran. And people only run when they're hiding from the truth or heading straight toward it. Meanwhile, the hospital corridor hums with tension as Madison reviews test results that make her stomach drop. Bill's chart doesn't lie. Something foreign has been introduced into a system over time, something subtle enough to avoid immediate detection but dangerous enough to cause irreversible damage. Madison calls Dr. Martinez, her voice low but urgent, and when he arrives, his expression confirms her worst fear. This isn't an accident. This is poisoning. And there's only one name neither of them has to say out loud for it to echo between them: Haley. Haley, of course, is elsewhere, playing the role she has perfected. She's at Bill's bedside, dabbing his forehead with faux concern, whispering reassurances that sound loving but feel rehearsed. When Bill stirs, weak and confused, Haley's eyes flicker, not with relief, but with calculation. She asks the nurse too many questions, watches the four too closely. When Madison enters the room, Haley's smile tightens. The air shifts instantly. Madison doesn't accuse her. She doesn't need to. She simply says they've changed Bill's medication and dietary intake effective immediately. Haley's mask slips forward just a second, and in that second, Madison knows she's right. Back at the Dupree estate, Queen Dupree summons Vernon, demanding damage control before Anastasia's defiance turns into public scandal. Vernon listens carefully, but something in his expression has changed. He's tired of covering sins that keep repeating themselves. He tells Queen Dupree that the family isn't crumbling because of Anastasia, it's crumbling because the truth has been buried for too long. Queen Dupree bristles at the implication, reminding Vernon of everything she's built. Vernon responds quietly but firmly. Empires fall when they refuse to evolve. That line lands like a gunshot in the room. Elsewhere, Naomi sits alone in her car outside the clinic, gripping the steering wheel as if it's the only thing keeping her grounded. Two secrets press against her ribs until she can barely breathe. The pregnancy. The genetic results she hasn't told Jacob about. When Jacob finally appears, smiling, hopeful, Naomi almost breaks. He talks about the future like it's guaranteed, and she nods, knowing every word is a lie by omission. When he asks if she's okay, Naomi says yes, because she doesn't yet have the strength to shatter him. Not today. Uptown erupts when Tomas confronts Eva in the middle of the square. What starts as a heated argument explodes into public humiliation when Tomas, fueled by betrayal and too much pain, slaps Eva. The sound cuts through the crowd like glass breaking. Kat and Isaiah rush forward, stunned, as Eva stumbles back, her face burning with more than physical pain. Tomas instantly realizes what he's done, horror replacing rage, but it's too late. Phones are out. Witnesses are everywhere. This moment will follow all of them forever. Shanice, already on edge, witnesses the aftermath and loses it. She drags Tomas away, unleashing years of bottled-up fury. She tells him that whatever Eva did, violence is the line you never cross. Her voice shakes, not with fear, but disappointment. And for Tomas, that cuts deeper than any consequence waiting for him. Eva, meanwhile, refuses medical help. She straightens her spine, wipes her tears, and walks away alone. Strength doesn't always look graceful, but it's undeniable. At the hospital, Dr. Martinez finally confronts Haley privately. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't threaten. He simply lays out the evidence. The herbal supplements. The altered tea blends. The timeline that aligns perfectly with Bill's decline. Haley laughs it off at first, calling it paranoia, jealousy, coincidence. But when Dr. Martinez tells her the substances found could have killed Bill if left unchecked, her laughter dies. She leans in close and tells him he has no proof that will ever stick. Martinez responds with one chilling sentence: "The truth doesn't need permission to surface." Haley watches him leave, panic flashing across her face for the first time. Andre finally appears at Danny's door as the sun sets. He looks wrecked, exhausted, hollowed out by guilt. Danny lets him in, but doesn't embrace him. He apologizes, rambling, emotional, sincere, but Danny stops him mid-sentence. She tells him love without honesty is just another kind of betrayal. Andre admits he's been lying to himself, torn between past mistakes and present fear. When Danny asks him if he still loves her, he can't answer immediately. That pause says everything. Danny opens the door and asks him to leave. This time, she doesn't beg. As night falls, Queen Dupree receives an anonymous envelope. Inside is a single document, proof of a long-buried decision that, if exposed, could dismantle her legacy and validate Anastasia's rebellion. Queen Dupree's hands tremble as she realizes someone inside her inner circle has turned against her. She whispers a single name, unsure whether she's accusing or confessing. The episode ends where it began, at the gates themselves. Anastasia stands outside, suitcase in hand, staring back at the estate that raised her and tried to own her. Her phone buzzes with a message: "You're not alone. It's time." She takes a deep breath and walks forward, not knowing who sent it, but knowing she's done being silent. Meanwhile, Shanice returns home furious, pacing like a caged lion. Ted calls, but she ignores it. Leslie's name flashes through her mind, another woman who thought manipulation could pass as love. Shanice is exhausted by lies dressed up as protection. When Ted finally shows up unannounced, Shanice explodes, accusing him of always being one secret away from betrayal. Ted swears he's been honest, that he's trying to be better, but Shanice isn't sure honesty after damage counts for much anymore. Their relationship hangs by a thread, frayed by the chaos surrounding them. Back at the Dupree estate, Queen Dupree retreats to her study, locking the door behind her. She rereads the document from the envelope, every word an accusation. It confirms a decision she made decades ago, one that altered the course of multiple lives. A choice she justified as necessary, strategic, protective. Now, it's a loaded weapon aimed directly at her throne. She pours herself a drink, but doesn't touch it. Power has always steadied her. Tonight, it feels slippery. Vernon, sensing the shift, makes a call of his own. He reaches out to someone from the past, someone who knows exactly how far Queen Dupree went to preserve her empire. He doesn't say much, only that the reckoning has begun. On the other end of the line, a voice responds, amused and unafraid. I was wondering when you'd finally call, they say. The past is no longer content to stay buried. Naomi's night gets worse when she receives a message from the clinic confirming what she already knows. Time is not on her side. She sits on her couch, staring at the wall, imagining futures that may never exist. When Jacob calls again, cheerful and unsuspecting, Naomi lets it ring. She loves him too much to lie again tonight. But tomorrow? Tomorrow may destroy everything. Andre walks the city aimlessly after leaving Danny's place, replaying her words. He realizes that losing her wasn't sudden. It was slow, death by avoidance. He pulls out his phone and deletes a number he's been holding onto like a crutch. It's a symbolic gesture, but symbols matter in soap worlds. Unfortunately, gestures don't undo damage. Danny, alone again, finally breaks down, not because Andre left, but because she finally chose herself. Growth hurts. Independence aches. But it's still freedom. At the hospital, Haley overhears two nurses whispering about the investigation. Panic tightens her chest. She slips into the supply room and makes a call to her mother, her voice shaking as she demands help. Her mother warns her that covering tracks now will only raise suspicion. Haley snaps that she didn't come this far to lose everything. When the call ends, Haley stares at her reflection, realizing the walls are closing in faster than she anticipated. The final moments of the episode intercut between locations, heightening the tension. Police lights flash faintly in Uptown. Bill's heart monitor beeps steadily but ominously. Queen Dupree stands alone in her mansion, surrounded by luxury that suddenly feels like a prison. Anastasia checks into a modest hotel, setting her suitcase down with a mix of fear and exhilaration. She sends one message, "I'm ready." The camera lingers on the gates one last time. Massive, symbolic, no longer just an entrance, but a line between silence and truth. Wednesday's episode doesn't end with resolution. It ends with momentum, with choices set in motion that cannot be undone, with lives colliding whether anyone is ready or not. And as the screen fades to black, the message is clear. Beyond the Gates is no longer about who holds power. It's about who survives the truth when it finally comes out. The next morning threatens to arrive, but the night refuses to loosen its grip on anyone involved. Sleep is scarce across the city, especially at the hospital, where the fluorescent lights buzz like a reminder that truth never rests. Madison sits alone in the break room, staring at her reflection in the darkened microwave door. She knows once the sun rises, this case stops being private suspicion and starts becoming institutional reckoning. Careers will be questioned, protocols reviewed, fingers pointed, and Madison is ready to let them point at her if it means Bill survives, and Haley doesn't get away with what she's done. Dr. Martinez joins her again, handing over a file he shouldn't technically have yet. Inside are preliminary toxicology correlations that mirror other cases dismissed, overlooked, quietly buried. Martinez admits this isn't the first time someone like Haley has hidden harm behind natural remedies and emotional proximity. Madison realizes then that this isn't just about Bill. It's about a system that too often protects charm over evidence. She closes the file and tells Martinez she'll testify if it comes to that. No hesitation. No fear. Martinez nods, knowing that line, once crossed, changes everything. Down the hall, Haley senses the shift. People aren't looking at her the same way anymore. Conversations stop when she enters rooms. Nurses are polite but distant. The illusion of control she's relied on begins to fracture, and with it, her composure. She slips into the chapel, not to pray, but to think. She tells herself she did what she had to do. That love justifies sacrifice. That Bill would have left her eventually if she hadn't secured her place. But doubt creeps in, sharp and unrelenting. For the first time, Haley wonders if she miscalculated, not morally, but strategically. Elsewhere, the fallout from Uptown spreads fast. Eva's name trends in whispered conversations, sympathy mixing with judgment in that cruel public way only soap towns perfect. When Eva finally ventures outside, she keeps her sunglasses on, even though it's still dark. Every step feels exposed. A reporter calls out her name, asking if she plans to press charges. Eva doesn't answer. She isn't ready to decide what justice looks like when your heart is still tangled with the person who hurt you. Tomas, meanwhile, is forced to confront the version of himself he never wanted to see. Sitting alone in a holding room, not yet arrested but not free either, he stares at his hands like they belong to someone else. He tells himself he lost control, that emotions took over, but excuses sound hollow in the quiet. When his lawyer advises him to stay silent, Tomas realizes silence is exactly what got him here. Too many swallowed words. Too much unresolved rage. This moment will follow him forever, whether he admits it or not. Shanice visits Eva later, bringing food Eva barely touches. Shanice doesn't sugarcoat anything. She tells Eva that healing doesn't require forgiveness, and forgiveness doesn't require forgetting. Eva listens, exhausted but grateful. For once, she doesn't feel pressured to be strong for everyone else. She just exists in the aftermath, and that's enough for now. Back at the Dupree estate, morning light reveals cracks that luxury can't hide. Queen Dupree meets with her attorney, who confirms her worst fear. If the document circulating reaches the wrong hands, it could unravel decades of carefully curated legacy. The attorney asks who else might have access. Queen Dupree doesn't answer immediately. She thinks of Vernon, of Anastasia, of secrets shared in confidence and loyalty stretched to its breaking point. For the first time, Queen Dupree realizes power isn't slipping away, it's being reclaimed by those she underestimated. Vernon, for his part, stands by a window in his own home, staring at the city he helped build behind the scenes. He knows what's coming. He's not sure if he's proud or afraid. When his phone buzzes with a message confirming Anastasia's safe arrival, he exhales. Protecting her now matters more than protecting the crown. Anastasia spends the night restless in the hotel room, unpacking and repacking her suitcase like movement alone might calm her nerves. She scrolls through old photos, family dinners, staged smiles, moments that felt warm until hindsight stripped them bare. When she finally lies down, she doesn't dream of the mansion. She dreams of open space, of telling her story without permission, of a future not defined by obedience. Naomi's breaking point comes quietly. She wakes Jacob in the middle of the night, unable to carry the weight alone anymore. She doesn't tell him everything, not yet, but she tells him enough. That she's scared, that something is wrong. Jacob holds her, confused but present, promising they'll face whatever it is together. Naomi cries into his shoulder, knowing the hardest truths are still ahead. Love doesn't disappear when secrets are revealed, but it does change shape. Dani starts her day differently. She throws out old letters, deletes old messages, and makes coffee she doesn't share. When Shanice checks in, Dani admits it hurts, but it hurts less than shrinking herself to keep someone else comfortable. That realization feels like growth, even if it comes with loneliness. Dani decides she won't chase closure. If Andre wants redemption, he'll have to earn it. Andre, meanwhile, sits in his car outside a place he's avoided for years, a reminder of who he was before fear dictated his choices. He doesn't go inside. Not yet. But he stays long enough to admit that running hasn't saved him from pain. It's only delayed it. The episode's final stretch circles back to Bill. He wakes again, clearer this time, and asks to see Madison, not Haley. That single choice speaks volumes. Madison explains carefully, gently, what they've discovered. Bill listens, devastated but not shocked. Somewhere deep down, he suspected. Trust doesn't break all at once, it fractures slowly. When Haley enters and sees Madison there, Bill's silence says everything she feared. The walls close in. The game changes. As the camera pulls back, each character stands at a crossroads, some aware, some not yet, but all moving toward consequence. Wednesday's episode doesn't promise redemption or punishment. It promises reckoning. And beyond the gates, where power once felt untouchable, truth is finally walking in without knocking.